This is my 1/35th scale 12-inch gauge swamp logging locomotive, presumably powered by a Ford Model A engine and a small skid-mounted fuel tank. So these models are eventually going to be part of my 9mm gauge model railway. It's a very tiny little layout in the corner of our living room. At the moment I'm just building the models up, and so I can get a better idea of how the various things will fit together in the scene. Don't want to rush my layout, so I'm just taking my time, having fun building models. And this is one of the first pieces of rolling stock that I completed. It's based on a Cato F7 diesel mechanism, just straight DC, nothing fancy. I've only got, I think, 3 turnouts probably going to end up on the scenic portion of the layout, so just keeping it simple. Runs like a Swiss watch. I fought for a long time trying to come up with tiny little narrow gauge looking 9mm gauge mechanisms, and I just don't have the mechanical ability. So I decided if I was going to continue, I was only going to use Cato diesel mechanisms and just hide them. So that's what I've done. Try to excuse me, disguise the fact that it's just an N-scale diesel in there. Can't really get too much of a sense of how narrow the trackage is on this, but this is extremely wide for the gauge. Here's a piece of Pico trackage to give you a sense of the full loading gauge. It's definitely in the realm of fantasy, but that's okay. I'm just trying to build interesting models. I'm not overly concerned with prototype accuracy, but I do use 1/35th scale because there's so much available that is applicable to a Northern Ontario logging operation. I've grown up around surplus military equipment being used in the bush. Jeeps, Dodges, CMPs, you name it. So that's why I decided to go with this scale. And my favorite part of the hobby is definitely the painting and weathering. And freelancing something like this, post-war industrial, gives you that freedom. I don't have to worry about trying to appease the rivet counters of the right shade of olive drab or whatever. If you're into accurate military modeling, that's awesome. But for me, it's more fun to be able to come up with stuff on your own. So this figure is just plastic mini art parts cobbled together. A little bit of epoxy putty work, which is a little dodgy in spots, but he's in the shade, so, and in the absence of political correctness, he's smoking a cigarette. Haven't run into too many machine operators that aren't chain smokers. The layout is going to be set probably in the late 70s. That's the time period that I remember as a kid going to local sawmills and just seeing home job equipment rotting away in the weeds, and that's where the inspiration for this stuff comes from. Excuse the scratchy noise in the background. So I paint exclusively with Vallejo acrylics and then do a shading at the very end with brown black artist oils. I've tried to do more and more with the acrylics. Even odorless mineral spirits make you feel a little bit funny after a while, so I'm trying to cut down on that. Anyway, this is just a little test of my brand new camera, and I thought you might be interested in seeing this if you're into narrow gauge logging. You can just make out the remnant of number 2 painted on that front plate. So that's supposed to be a heavy steel plate to protect the engine compartment. The same on the back. Heavy steel plate. Again, the remnant of number 2 painted there. It's just been faded away over the years. Someone's welded bars on that opening to keep stray logs from decapitating the operator. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching.